Hey guys, Rick Stone here from the blog Our Stony Acres and the Online Gardening School. Welcome to our YouTube channel, where today we're going to try something a little bit different. We're going to do a mid-spring garden tour. So I've never really done a garden tour before. I've had some people ask about what my garden looks like, so I thought we'd run through and take a look at what our garden looks like on today, which is May 30th. And so for those of you that don't know, we live in a Zone 6A, 6B garden in Utah, just south of Salt Lake City. So we've had an actually pretty cool spring this year, and so the garden looks really good. So it's probably a good time to do a tour. So let's go ahead and take a look at the garden. Now we have two separate sections in our garden, and so I'll take you to look at each of those. One is this area here, so let's flip us around and take a look. So this first section, this is our raised bed gardens, and let me back up here so that you can kind of get a broad overview. This bed that you're looking at right now is brand new. We just finished it. It has only been partially planted, so it's not completely planted yet, so there's not really a lot to look at. This is our one of our two cattle panel trellises, and I filmed a video earlier today for that, so you'll see that coming up. You can see why we had to do raised beds here. The people that lived here before us had put gravel in to park a trailer here, so there was no way we were doing in-ground beds, so we chose to do these raised bed gardens here. These three beds have been in for about 3 years now, and actually the soil's kind of settled in. We've gotten enough compost in it now that they're actually doing really well. For the last couple of years have done really well. So let's take a look. So first off, right here planted but not up yet are some cucumbers, some pumpkins, some beans to go up on the trellis. We've got these purple cabbages, which it's just a purple acre is what it's called. I've actually never grown purple cabbage before. We've always only grown just the green, but this year we decided to try the purple so that we could take advantage of the extra nutrition. The purple has a lot more phytonutrients in it. So there's 4 of those plants. I'm just kind of test driving those this year to see what they're like. The fabric row cover is to keep the pests out. I kind of peeled it back here so that we could take a look, but it keeps the cabbage loppers off, so that's good. Below this fabric row cover is some embarrassingly puny looking basil plants. I'm not going to take the cover off because they look terrible right now. I think I probably should have hardened them off for a couple more days before I actually planted them. I'm sure they'll recover, but they look terrible, so we're not going to look at those. This is our cilantro, which you can see is starting to bolt, and so we need to get it finished up. I actually have advertised out to the neighbors if they want to come get some, because it's starting to get seed heads on it, so it's not going to last much longer. Okay, over here in this bed, this is kind of our, for the most part, our cabbage bed this year, or our broccoli bed. But we do have these few green onions. This was kind of the leftovers, the onion plants that I felt like were too small to plant in the main garden, which you'll see here in a bit. But we went ahead and planted them here as green onions. They're extra deep, and they're about ready to go. We'll probably be able to start harvesting them here in about a week. So not a lot, but a few there that we put in. These kale plants look small because we've been harvesting the heck out of them. We've been pulling leaves off of these now for about 3.5, 4 weeks. And so about every time they get about hand size, which like this one is just about hand size, we pull those off. Found that they're a little yummier and tender there. And this variety is Vates. So this is our favorite variety of kale, and about the only variety that we grow anymore. We've tried Red Russian, we've tried the Dinosaur, and we just don't like it. But we do like the Vates. So broccoli, we've got 8 plants this year. Not a lot this year. We just didn't have the space. You can also see we've got some volunteer potatoes coming up underneath there. Potatoes are the only plant that I let come up volunteer in my garden. Anything else gets pulled out as a weed. But the broccoli's looking good, and again, it's been covered with the fabric row cover as well, so that it can keep the pests off. So I peeled that back for the video. This bed is potatoes, which I was actually kind of surprised. They've only been in about 10 days, but looky here. We've got some coming up, and then of course the volunteer potato, which this is odd because there haven't been potatoes in this bed for 2 or 3 years, so I don't know where that one's coming from, but volunteer potato there. So that is those 3 beds. This bed, we are going to do a late planting of potatoes in. There is a let's see, this is a squash that we're going to kind of just let spill out here, maybe even into the compost bin. This is kind of just an improvised compost space that I put together. The rest of this bed this year is going to be planted to potatoes. And then once the potatoes are done, we're going to actually put blackberries in this bed because it's a nice sunny spot and we want to do some more blackberries. But the plants that we have right now, I need to wait till they kind of grow, and we're going to do some cuttings and then plant those in this bed. So, and then this trellis again will have pumpkins and beans, all of which are planted but aren't coming up yet. I don't see anything coming up yet. That might be a pumpkin right there, but I think it might just be a weed too. So there are a few cucumbers there too. We kind of wanted to see what would do. This trellis is new this year, and so we kind of wanted to see. Here's our peach tree, which is loaded right now. And I just filmed, I'm working on thinning this tree. I'll finish it up tonight. I just filmed a video on how to thin, but you can see it's got way too many peaches for this tree. This is a dwarf variety. I can't remember the variety. I'll have to go look it up the next time I film a video, but it's a dwarf tree. It's not going to get a ton bigger than what you see right now. Just because we didn't have the space for it. Then we have our 2 apple trees. One of these, this one is a Fuji, and this one is a Honeycrisp. And look at this. These trees are 5 years old, and here we go. First year to actually have apples. So we're excited. We haven't had apples for quite a few years. We moved into this place about 6 years ago and planted these trees the first summer after we moved in, and so we're finally getting some apples, which is good. So we're excited about that. All right, again, there's that bed. Oh, I've got a few bags here. The front 3, there's nothing in yet. I'm going to plant potatoes in those. I do have, you can see this one's kind of just a greens. I wanted to see how greens would do in these bags. I've only used these bags for a couple of years, and I've never tried any greens. And so we've got, I think that's probably kale coming up. Maybe it's Swiss chard. And then this one has some crookneck squash in it that has not come up yet. So we'll see. And I put in the bags as a mix of compost and topsoil. We'll see how that works. I don't know what it's going to do. Then we've got our almond tree, which also we had a great year. The spring was just perfect. It was nice and wet. And so you can see the almond tree is loaded. And the nice thing about an almond tree is it does not need to be thinned like the peach tree. So this is actually the 3rd year that we'll get a crop from this tree. This tree also, let me back up. This tree is about 6 years old and doing really well. I kind of had to prune it a little funky because it was growing into the house for some reason. I think it liked the light and the warmth from the house, and so I had to prune it a little bit. But this will be the 3rd year that we've had a really good harvest of almonds, and this one looks like it'll be the best by far. We don't love these almonds. They're really strong. They're okay. We eat them, but they're really, really strong almondy flavor. And this one is called a Hals. Hals, I think is the variety on that. Okay, so this is the main garden, and this space is now 6. This is its 6th. Now this would be its 7th summer that we have grown in this space, and it's about 1,000 square feet total, and you can see it's actually looking pretty good this year, so we're kind of excited. So let's start down here. This bed gets a lot of shade from this wall, so we can only really grow in it in the summertime when the sun's high enough. So we just barely planted it. This was all planted in strawberries, and they kind of burned out. They've been in here for 5 years, and so we dug these up. And you can see we've got some kale coming up right there, and some lettuce. And this is a summer variety of lettuce because, you know, it is June, and so we're trying a summer variety which we've grown before. And then we've got some beets. You can see there's beets just coming up there. And this bed is only planted to those stakes, and then there's another space right here that I still need to add compost to, and then we'll plant summer greens here as well, so some of these summer lettuces again, and probably some New Zealand spinach or maybe some Malabar spinach that grows in the summertime. And then this is our measly little strawberry patch. This is all that's left. This whole bed was the strawberry patch up until this year, but it really just kind of burned out. But this end is in a little bit better shape, and so I decided to leave it in this year. Next year we're going to totally relocate where we're planting the strawberries, but we wanted to get a few this year, and this end kind of is the end where everything grew to, and so we left it in. The onions are doing fantastic for this time of year. They look really, really good. I attribute that, they look better than most years, but I've been a little more conscientious about getting some fertilizer on them. It's an organic fertilizer, I grow organically. And then I think top dressing it, you can see we've top dressed it with some compost. I think the combination of those two have really helped to get those going. And then this little spot right here is, you can see there's some potatoes that are just starting to come up. We've got 3 rows of potatoes here, kind of in between the onions and the garlic. Just hoping to get some potatoes out of there. And then we've got the garlic. We've got 2 varieties of garlic here. This that you're seeing here close is the soft neck, and then the hard neck. I actually noticed today that we've got scapes that are starting to grow, which is good. So we'll probably be harvesting scapes in maybe 2 or 3 weeks, hopefully. Look, that one's even better. You can see that's a good one. So that one will probably be ready to harvest in maybe as soon as a week. So we're going to try out some garlic scape pesto and a few things this year. Years past, we've kind of just used them to season things with, but we're going to use them for a base a little bit. So our garlic is usually ready about mid-July, so we've got about 6 weeks before this garlic will be ready to harvest. Okay, then we've got our peppers, another volunteer potato, which I probably shouldn't leave that one, but these peppers have not been in very long. In fact, these that you see here, this row, have only been in for 5 days in the garden. This row back behind, you can see they're just a little bit bigger, and they have been in for 2.5 weeks, but we've had really cool weather. Like, I had to protect these from frost a couple of nights with some frost blankets. So they're kind of struggling right now. They'll snap out of it because weather's kind of warming up. So we should snap out of it. This row are all yellow banana peppers, sweet banana peppers. And then these are kind of a mix of several different types of bell peppers. We love the banana peppers, but we wanted to try, we've got a couple of these down here that we've never tried before, a Jim's Giant, and then we've got just a yellow and an orange, and then this one here on the end is a chili pepper. We're not spicy pepper eaters. My son is, and so this year he asked me to grow at least 1 spicy pepper. So this is just a green chili or a red chili, I can't remember which, that we planted as well. So those are all kind of just meh right now. They'll start taking off. The weather's going to warm up, and we're going to be up in the 80s here pretty quick, so they should take off and do well. Right here, this is, let me back up. This is our second cattle panel trellis, and again, there'll be a video posted in just a week or 2. I filmed it today, just need to get it edited. It's showing you how we constructed it. Not a lot growing on this yet because, again, it's really early in the spring for us, and it's been very wet and very cold. So we have back here behind it, there's cucumbers planted, but I don't even see any coming up yet. I think most of what the green there is just weeds. Here in front, we have some more potatoes, just a little short 4-foot row of potatoes. And then back behind, even further back behind, there's some summer lettuce planted in there as well, and that's the Summer Crisp lettuces. Here's our tomatoes, most of our tomatoes. We've got 10 tomatoes total planted, which for the 4 of us is enough. It's not an overabundance of tomatoes. We've got a Celebrity, which is an heirloom tomato, and you can see they're doing pretty good in here. They've been in for about 3 weeks in the Walla Waters. I got them in late this year. Usually I get them in by mid-April. I didn't get them in until the 1st of May this year. I just ran out of time. And then these back here are Brandywine, which is an heirloom. Again, they're doing pretty good inside. Yeah, look, they're looking pretty big. So I will probably only leave the Wall of Waters on for another week because our temperatures by the end of this coming week, so about the 5th or 6th of June, we're going to be up in the 80s, and that'll be plenty warm enough for the tomatoes to be on their own. So we'll go there. Coming up right here, looks like something's getting after these two, is just some sunflowers. These are giant sunflowers. I love giant sunflowers, just for the fun of them. So this bed will have popcorn. We haven't planted it yet because we just haven't had enough cool weather or warm weather for this to dry out. I dig this kind of up. You can't even tell right now, but I dig it up into a bed, and it needs to have some compost added into it. And then we plant the popcorn in hills of about 8 clumps each. So I've got some videos on how I plant that way, but not in yet. This is kind of the last of our spring greens bed. We've been eating off of this for a while. There used to be, like over here, the lettuce, there used to be about twice as many lettuce plants there, and we'll need to get all of these harvested within the next week or two because it is going to jump into the 80s. Just a little bit of spinach because we had our overwintered spinach this year, and so I only planted just a little row, but we just, the overwintered spinach was right here, and we just finished eating it this week and dug it out. If you'd have seen this video a week ago, it had been piled up with spinach that was going to seed there. So a few radishes left. We've been eating off of this row of radishes. There's only 2 of us in the family that like radishes, me and one of our daughters, so we don't plant very many. This was just like a little 4-foot row, and it's kept us occupied. And then we've got some beets growing here. We've been eating greens off of these on and off, not a lot. Now we're just going to let them go and grow roots. And then just kind of some various mixed lettuces. This is a variety we call Larry's Red. It's an heirloom variety. We don't know the actual name. A friend of ours named Larry gave it to us, didn't tell us what it was. And so I've saved seeds from this. We've had it for about at least 10 years, maybe 12 years. And I've been saving seeds from it on and off. And so I just call it Larry's Red. These other lettuces are Butter Crunch, and that's, like I say, we've got there's 6 plants left, and that'll be the end of the spring lettuce. This is mustard, which it turns out this was an experiment, and it turns out we don't like mustard, so no more mustard for us. We're not going to grow it again because we didn't like it. Here we've got zucchini planted, not coming up yet. Beans on this side of the trellis, and not coming up yet. All of this stuff has just been in for a few days. This is our cold frame potatoes. So these potatoes have been in since the middle of March and are doing pretty well. Funny, and it's 3 different varieties. We're kind of test driving some new varieties here, and it's funny for some reason look how lopsided they were planted the same days, but the different varieties are growing at different speeds. There's Yukon Golds in here, and I think these are Yukon Golds on this side, and then we've got some yellow Pontiacs or Potomacs, and those are ones we grow all the time. And then these up here at the front, and look, they're flowering. These are a purple potato that we wanted to try this year. We've never had a purple potato before, and so there's a little 4-foot section of these to see how they're doing, and they're actually doing really well. And you can see these red Pontiacs are also just starting to flower. They'll have flowers on them in a couple of days. There is another tomato that didn't have a wall of water. That's a Roma that we planted just for a few salsa type tomatoes. And then this is our peas, which are doing really, really well. Let me back up so that you can see the whole bed. Peas are doing awesome. We've got snap peas, sugar snap peas, and a few Oregon Giants here on the trellises. And then these are called green arrows, and they're a shelling pea. And then stuck smack in the middle of it is a kale plant that I have let go to seed. This is Vate's kale that overwintered outside right here. And because it was so tough, I'm out of seeds, and so we let this go to seed so that we can collect some seeds. So you can see it's flowered, and we're just starting to get some pods developing. Kale is kind of cool. I'll have to do a video sometime on it. They kind of almost grow like a pea. They get long out here, and kind of fun to collect seeds from those. So the peas are doing really well. They're a little behind again because we've been so cold and so wet. Usually I would expect to see blossoms by the 1st of June, and no, not this year. Although these crawler guys are climbing and doing well, I think we may see some blossoms and start getting peas here pretty soon on those. And then over here, just kind of some herbs. We've got our peppermint, which is getting overrun with quack grass, but we keep that pretty under control. And then a couple of parsley plants that have been in for, these have been out here for about 6 weeks and are kind of now just taken off. Then our chive, which is doing awesome. We're harvesting blossoms and stuff from there. And then a few raspberries in the shade here, which don't do very well because they're in the deep shade of this tree. And then some blackberries. These are called Primark blackberries, which are a thornless variety that we really like. And excitingly, we have blossoms on the blackberries. These blackberries don't do all that well because they're in the shade of this tree. You can see this plant just doesn't look all that great. This one gets a little more sun, and so it does better. That's part of the reason why we're going to replant these over there in the sunshine, over in this space, over there, so that hopefully they do better. So once these have sprouted out, I'll take some cuttings for the ends of some of these canes, and we'll replant them over there. This is our raspberry patch, which our raspberry patch is looking really bad this year. I'm kind of bummed because we lost a lot. I don't know if we had some winter kill. We had a pretty hard winter, but look at this dead space. There's just this whole spot that normally is loaded with raspberries that are gone. So I don't know what happened there. And then we've got raspberries all the way along there. So then we've got our grape trellis, which is doing pretty good. It's looking a little ragged, but it kind of just happens that way for a little while until the leaves get fully developed. But you can actually see, if you look really close, we have grapes coming along. So excited about that. 2 varieties of grapes here. They're both seedless red table grape, and we may actually replant these after this year. We don't like them. They're not very tasty. They're supposed to be seedless, and it turns out they're not. And so, yeah, we may actually replant with a different variety after this year. We'll see. I trimmed them back, and I'm hoping that they get a little more sun this year, and maybe they'll sweeten up and be a little better than they have been in the past. And then we come back here, and we have more blackberries. These are fairly new plants. They only just started producing last year, and they'll do better this year, but they don't get a lot of sun back here. This is on in between our house and the neighbors, and so we don't ever expect them to do fantastic because they don't get a ton of sun. And then a couple more raspberries here that we planted just for the fun of it to see how they would do in the shade. So that, I think, is about the garden for this year so far. We're looking forward to the summer as things start to grow and fill in a lot. Hopefully, if I do this again in a couple of weeks, there'll be stuff starting to grow up on the new trellises. Right now, nothing has come up yet. So hope you enjoyed that. Let me know if you did. If it's something you're interested in me doing again, I will keep doing them. If it's not, then we'll move on and try other things. But Great. So make sure that you subscribe to my YouTube channel, and that you, if you're watching this on Facebook, you like my Facebook page. Also go check out our video course, our gardening video course website, which is www.onlinegardeningschool.com. And you can buy a bunch of video courses there, and we've got some exciting stuff happening. We're starting a membership site as part of the online gardening school, where you can pay a monthly fee and you'll have access to all of our gardening courses, plus all of our new gardening courses. And then we're going to be doing a lot of fun weekly activities, challenges. We'll have Q&A sessions where you guys can ask me questions. So a lot of fun stuff happening there. So again, that's the onlinegardeningschool.com. onlinegardeningschool.com. I'll put a link down below. All right, that is all I have for you. Hope you enjoyed the tour. We'll come back and try it again another time. Everybody have a great week. Happy gardening.